Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rifa Adrika Putri, and today I would like to present my research proposal entitled Exploring Students' Perceptions about the Benefit of English Learning Podcasts in Improving Speaking Skills. So, in this presentation, we will In this presentation, I will start by the introduction of this study, literature review, and then methodology of this study. Communication is an essential aspect of language learning, especially when learning English as a foreign language. Because of that, speaking's become one of the most important skills to be mastered by learners. Speaking is generally defined as the process of producing verbal language to convey meaning and interact with others. It is not just the ability to pronounce words correctly, but also the process of conveying ideas, choosing the right vocabulary, and using the correct grammar in real communication. Despite playing central role, speaking is considered one of the most difficult skills for learners to master. These issues can hinder learners from conveying their ideas clearly and fluently, which is turn effect to their overall speaking performance. However, learning speaking requires not only teaching strategies but also technological support. And one of the technology that students can use to help their speaking skills is English learning podcasts. Most research examine about the podcast on the students' speaking skills, but there is limited research focusing on students' perceptions about podcasts for improving the speaking skills of English education students at Universitas Negeri Padang. To avoid a broad and unfocused discussion, this study limits its scope to several aspects. First, this study only focuses on students' perceptions of the use of English learning podcasts, and this study does not measure students' actual speaking performance or speaking achievement through tests or experimental treatments. And this study has two research questions. The first one is, what are the perceived benefits of using English learning podcasts toward students' speaking skills of English education students at Universitas Negeri Padang? And the second one is, what challenges do students face when using English learning podcasts toward their speaking skills? And this study also have two purposes. The first one is this study want to explore students' perception of the benefits of English learning podcasts. And then this study also want to find out challenges students may face in using English learning podcasts to improve their speaking skills. To support several related theories also reviewed in this study. Uh, According to Fahriza et al. 2023, speaking is an interactive process that involves giving and receiving spoken information. Thus, speaking is not merely about producing language, but also building communication between speaker and listener. There are two parties that involve in speaking, the speakers who convey the information and the listener who hears the information. According to Bakri et al. 2025, English learning podcasts are a technology-based learning medium that presents authentic English through conversation or audio material, helping learners develop their speaking skills. Not only audio, some English learning podcasts also present content in form of the video and image of the material. Through podcasts, students can listen the conversation of the native English speaker, so they can learn naturally about the pronunciation, intonation, and speaking style. And according to Wardana M 2024, perception is a field that drives individuals to process information and connect past experiences through sociocultural influences. Several related theories also reviewed to support this study. The first one is from Saifullah 2024, conducted study titled Indonesian Private University Students' Perception of English Podcast Integration in EFL Speaking Learning Classroom. This study found that using podcasts provides significant insight for educational and language teaching practice, emphasizing the potential integration of podcasts as a supplementary tool to improve learning English speaking skills in EFL context. And then Wulan Rahmasari et al. 2021 conducted study titled Students' perception on utilizing podcasts in learning speaking. The finding illustrate that students had a positive perception of utilization of podcasts in learning speaking. And then Mohzana 2024 conducted study titled Strategies for Developing Speaking Skills by Utilizing Language Learning Podcasts. The result of this study explain that podcasts play an important role in the development of speaking skills. For the methodology, this research used descriptive quantitative research. Uh, this research used descriptive quantitative research with the focus of research to exploring students' perception of podcasts on and their benefit of speaking skills. And for the population is fifth semester students of the English education program at Universitas Negeri Padang. This population was selected because they already take speaking skills in their previous semester. And for the sample is 15 respondents selected through purposive sampling with the criteria students who use English learning podcasts on their speaking skills. And for the instrument, the study used questionnaire as the instrument. And for the data collection technique, at first author prepared the questionnaire and then distributing the questionnaire online through Google Form to the participant. And after that, collecting participant responses. And for the data analysis, the data will be analyzed use descriptive statistic. The author calculate the mean score by dividing the total score of respondent by the number of respondent. Then the result will be interpreted based on the interval criteria. And that's all from me. Thank you for the attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.